Well, since you need more information, I suppose tons of other people are going to need more information too. So let's get into it while I'm on my 8K walk home from work. And if I seem out of breath at any point in this video, it's because I am 45 years old and out of shape, hence the need for the 8K walk home. There seems to be a misconception, particularly in Alberta, that Albertans pay more in federal income tax than any other province in the country. And while that does feel true, it's technically bullshit, and I'll explain why. First of all, let's be clear. All provinces are subject to the same federal tax rates. That part doesn't magically change just because you live in Alberta instead of Manitoba. What does change is how much tax revenue each province contributes, which depends on factors like income wage rates and population size. Take Alberta, for example. We have a relatively high concentration of wealth and higher than average incomes, thanks in large part to our energy sector. So naturally, people in Alberta fall into the upper tax brackets federally. As a result, Alberta contributes more federal tax dollars per capita than many other provinces. And this creates the perception that Albertans are being unfairly taxed. But they're not. An individual Albertan does not contribute any more to federal tax than any other Canadian in the same income bracket. So when many Albertans get on their high horse and they start bitching that they are paying for the entire country, it's a gross misrepresentation of facts. And it's one that conservative politicians specifically love to manipulate because it feeds the anti-Ottawa rage that Alberta is known for. But the reality is, if you took any Albertan and relocated them to Ontario or Nova Scotia, and they were making the exact same income that they're making now, they would pay the exact same amount of federal tax. And it's also important to know that equalization payments have no effect on how much federal tax you pay. They influence how funds are distributed, not how they're collected. Another popular argument from Alberta is that we don't get equalization payments, as if that's proof of some federal injustice. But here's the thing. Alberta has received equalization support when it's needed. That's exactly how the system is supposed to work. Equalization isn't a reward or a punishment. It's a tool designed to help provinces that are struggling to raise enough revenue to provide comparable public services. Alberta doesn't receive payments right now because it has one of the strongest economies and significant provincial revenue, especially from natural resources. And that's a good thing. But during tougher times, like the oil price crash of the 80s or the early 2010s, Alberta did benefit from federal support in other forms, including stabilization payments and targeted federal transfers. And whenever disaster strikes, from wildfires to floods to pandemics, the federal government shows up with billions in direct support from the same pool of federal funds that equalization payments come from. So no, Alberta doesn't get regular equalization checks. And that's not a slight. That's a reflection of our strength. Equalization is just a safety net. Just because you're not currently using it doesn't mean it's unfair that others are. If anything, we should be grateful that we don't need it right now. Because when we do, and we will get it. So quit bitching.